to fight through school, and I was the one staying up to 2 o'clock in the morning studying and still struggling. I'm a horrible test taker. Horrible test taker. I can know all the answers, but put that test in front of me and I bomb it, or I struggle. And I've never given up. A lot of you know my part of my story, my health challenges, bad relationships, things that could have knocked somebody down completely hardcore. But the thing is I believe that everything in life happens for a reason, and I also believe people are placed in our life for a reason. And I remember when I went through something major in my life, good relationship, gone bad, and I remember coming out feeling the weakest I've ever felt in my life. Like I was no good, I wasn't good enough. My insecurities got deeper, stronger, and I felt like I was not worthy of anything. Through that, I've met so many people in my life that helped me through all of that, helped me build my confidence, helped me. You just have to surround yourself with people that want better for you, just like they do for themselves. And if you do that, like, you're on top of the world when you have people that you surround yourself with that make you better. Like, they don't bring the bad out of you, they bring the good out of you. And from that point on, I fought like hell. I worked my tail off. I busted my butt. I was never a big dreamer, so to think, because my insecurities brought me down. But I remember when I was single for a long time, and my goal was to buy a house. I was tired of paying someone else's mortgage because, that's what you do when you rent. And I wanted to buy a house. And I wanted to buy a house that I could resell one day and make a profit off of. And so I worked and worked and worked and worked. I lost a lot of friends because a lot of my friends were still young. We were still young. And I was 25 years old when I built my first house. My family doesn't come from money. We always worked hard for what we had. And I did. I bought my first house at 25 years old. And that was the biggest accomplishment I felt I've ever done, because I did it by myself. I did it by working my tail off for it. And I had that to show for it, And then I met Chris. My health challenges happened. I was diagnosed with some health challenges, and then I met Chris. I met Chris because of those health challenges. My friend sent me a friend suggestion for him. It was actually his cousin's wife, and I deleted it. I was like, I'm not interested. I don't want to meet a guy. Bye-bye. So I deleted her friend's suggestion for him. I was diagnosed 2 months later, and I went through one of the, I would say, darkest times of my life, because things just got scarier, worse. I thought my life was crumbling underneath me, and I didn't know which way to turn. And I got a friend request from Chris. I was in a really, really, really bad place, and I got a friend request from Chris on Facebook, and I was like, oh, what the heck, I'm never gonna meet him. Except, one thing led to another, and 8 years later, we have 2 kids, we live in Colorado, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me. And because of my health challenges, because I got so sick, I let him in. And he only knew me at that time. He knew me at my worst, and he accepted me. And through your vows, like through sickness and everything, he's been there. He was the one that let me lay on him and fall asleep for 3.5 hours on his lap while he had to pee. He is the best thing that has ever happened to me. So with that being said, know that no matter what, and I can go on forever with this story, but I want to cut it short so I don't bore you guys. Know that no matter how hard life gets, no matter how low you feel, know that deep down, in your heart, that there's a purpose, there's a reason for everything. We may not understand it at the time. it's hard to understand it at the time. I'm telling you, when I met Chris, I pushed him away. I gave every excuse for him to run.
In a chilling phone call from prison, Chris Watts' voice was calm, too calm, as he uttered words that would echo through every news outlet and social media platform. I never loved Shanann, and I told her. Those who knew the couple could hardly believe what they were hearing. For years, Chris and Shanann appeared to be the perfect family. 2 beautiful daughters, a new home in Colorado, and social media posts filled with love and laughter. But behind the smiling photos was a marriage crumbling under pressure, resentment, and secrets. During the early years, Shanann was the driving force, ambitious, energetic, and proud of her family. Chris, on the other hand, was quiet, reserved, and often in the background. Friends said Shanann lit up the room, while Chris just followed along. But over time, that dynamic shifted. Chris began to withdraw, hiding emotions and creating a wall between them that even Shanann couldn't break down. When investigators reviewed Shanann's final text messages, they saw a woman fighting to save her marriage, unaware of how far gone it really was. In one text, she wrote, "I don't know how we got here, but I love you." Chris never responded with the same warmth. Years later, sitting behind prison walls, Chris revealed to investigators that he had confessed his lack of love to Shanann before the tragedy. According to him, it was that confrontation, her heartbreak, her disbelief, that set everything in motion. It was the moment everything fell apart, the truth that shattered not just a family, but an entire nation's sense of understanding. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for more true crime stories like this. For years, Shanann Watts built a life that looked perfect from the outside. She shared updates about her daughters, Bella and Celeste, with the world videos of laughter, dancing, bedtime hugs, and sweet family moments. To her followers, she was a devoted mother and wife, deeply in love with her husband, Chris. But behind the filters and smiles, something darker was brewing. Shanann worked tirelessly to keep her family together while balancing her health struggles and business responsibilities. Chris, meanwhile, had grown detached. He'd become distant, cold, even avoiding affection and burying himself in the gym. Friends noticed the shift. Shanann confided to one that Chris had changed since she returned from a work trip. "It's like he's a different person," she said. "I don't know him anymore." What Shanann didn't know was that Chris was living a double life. While she worked to repair their marriage, Chris was slipping deeper into an affair with Nicole Kessinger, a coworker who thought she'd found the perfect man. One who told her he was separated, soon to be divorced, and desperate for a new beginning. In his mind, Chris had already rewritten the story of his life. He began to imagine a future without Shanann and the girls, a life free of what he saw as pressure and control. His fantasy world grew stronger with every lie he told, until reality no longer fit the script he was writing. The illusion was complete until the night it shattered forever. If you're just joining us, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode from Dark Matters True Crime. It was late summer 2018. Shanann Watts had just returned from a business trip in Arizona. Exhausted, pregnant, and uneasy about her husband's strange behavior, she entered the quiet house on Saratoga Trail, unaware that it would be the last time she ever walked through that door alive. In those final hours, Shanann tried to talk to Chris, to reach the man she thought she knew. She wanted to fix what was broken, to save their marriage for the sake of their children and the new baby growing inside her. But Chris had already made up his mind. His heart and his loyalty were elsewhere. Later, during his prison confession, Chris admitted something that sent chills through everyone who heard it. He said he told Shanann, "I don't love you anymore." She begged him to stop, to think of their family. But he didn't. In his own words, she said, "I'd never see the kids again." That's when it happened. He strangled her. The woman who had once called him her rock, the mother of his children, in cold blood. And when it was over, Chris said there was silence. No screams, no struggle, just the sound of a life leaving the room. But even that wasn't enough to make him stop. What came next would horrify the world, because Chris Watts wasn't done yet. This wasn't just a moment of rage. It was a decision, a plan that had been forming long before that night. And as the sun rose over Frederick, Colorado, the perfect family everyone admired online was already gone. The next morning, the suburban neighborhood of Frederick, Colorado, looked as peaceful as ever, bright skies, trimmed lawns, a picture of calm. But inside the Watts home, something unspeakable had already taken place. Shanann was gone. Bella and Celeste were missing. And Chris Watts, the husband and father everyone thought they knew, was standing in the middle of it all, rehearsing his next move. He acted quickly, methodically. He loaded his wife's body into his truck, then carried out his two daughters, still alive, still trusting their father. In his later confession, Chris said little Bella asked him, "What's wrong with Mommy?" Those words would echo in the interrogation room years later, haunting investigators, haunting viewers, haunting him. Hours later, at the remote oil site where he worked, Chris ended everything. He buried Sean in a shallow grave and forced his daughters into oil tanks. An act so horrifying it left even seasoned detectives shaken. But when Chris drove home, he slipped seamlessly back into character. He texted Shanann's friends, pretending to be worried. He called the school, asking if the girls had shown up. And when the police arrived, he put on a show, pacing, wringing his hands, and telling officers he had no idea where his family had gone. To the outside world, he was a devastated husband. But to those who looked closer, his story didn't add up. The way he avoided eye contact, the absence of emotion, the eerie calm, all of it screamed guilt. Within 48 hours, that mask would begin to crack. And when it did, the whole world would see the monster hiding behind the smile. If you're still watching, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping true crime stories from Dark Matters True Crime. From the moment police stepped into the Watts home, something didn't feel right. Shanann's car sat in the garage. Her purse, phone, and wedding ring were still inside the house. Her shoes, the ones she wore everywhere, were by the door. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, no reason for her to vanish. Detectives knew something was off. But Chris, he stayed eerily calm. He talked about marital problems, about Sean and taking the kids to a friend's house. He even mentioned she might have just needed space. It was a flimsy story, one that would soon collapse under the weight of truth. When Shanann's friend, Nicole Atkinson, told police Sean would never leave without her phone or kids' medicine, investigators shifted their focus. They pulled surveillance footage from the neighbor across the street, and what they saw changed everything. At 5 a.m., Chris's truck backed into the garage. For nearly an hour, the headlights stayed fixed on the house. The next moment, he drove off. No one else was seen entering or leaving. The neighbor looked at Chris during the playback and muttered, "He's not acting right." Detectives agreed. Chris fidgeted, avoided eye contact, and crossed his arms tightly as if holding something in. Behind closed doors, the interrogation began. And under the bright lights of that room, his story began to crumble. Chris denied everything. But his body language, his heartbeat, his lies told the truth for him. By the end of the day, investigators brought in a polygraph test, and Chris agreed to take it, confident he could fool the machine. He couldn't. And what came next would turn a missing persons case into one of the darkest confessions in American true crime history. Inside the stark gray interrogation room, Chris Watts sat slouched in his chair, eyes empty, his hands clasped tight together. The detectives had been patient, circling him with questions that pressed harder each time. But when the polygraph results came back, the truth could no longer hide. "You did not pass the test, Chris," the examiner told him gently. "We need to know what really happened." For a moment there was silence. Then his voice broke. He whispered, "I told her I didn't love her anymore." His eyes filled with tears, not of grief, but of exhaustion, as if he was tired of pretending. Detectives leaned in. "And then what happened?" Chris hesitated. "She said I'd never see the kids again." He looked down. "That's when I did it." Those words hung heavy in the air. But the truth was still only half out. When pressed about the children, Chris insisted Sean had hurt them. A desperate lie to protect the last piece of his image. But when his father entered the room, everything broke apart. "Dad," Chris whispered, his face pale. "I did it. I killed them all." It was the confession that shocked the nation. A father, husband, and once perfect man admitting to an unthinkable crime. The detectives sat in stunned silence as the weight of his words filled the room. Within hours, Chris Watts was arrested. The illusion was gone. The mask was shattered. And behind it stood a man who had traded his family for freedom, only to find himself in a prison that would never let him go. If you're still watching, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share. More haunting truths await here on Dark Matters True Crime, where every lie eventually meets the light. When Chris Watts walked into the Weld County courtroom, the world was watching. His face, once familiar from smiling family photos, was now drained and hollow. There was no fight left in him, no defense, no denial, no emotion. Only the grim acceptance of what he had done. In November 2018, Chris pleaded guilty to 9 felony counts, including the murders of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, as well as the unlawful termination of Shanann's unborn son, Nico. He did it to avoid the death penalty, a mercy his surviving in-laws allowed, despite their unimaginable grief. As the judge read the sentence, 5 life terms without the possibility of parole, the courtroom fell silent. Shanann's parents, Frank and Sandra Rzusek, sat trembling. Sandra's voice broke as she addressed him directly. "You took away my daughter, my grandchildren, my entire world. May God have mercy on your soul." Chris stared ahead, unmoving. No tears, no words, just a blank, distant look that sent chills down the spines of everyone in the room. The world would later learn every horrific detail through court documents, body cam footage, and prison interviews. The lies, the manipulation, the calmness of a man capable of unimaginable evil. Today, Chris serves his sentence at Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin, spending his days in isolation. But even behind bars, the story of his crime refuses to fade. Each year, new revelations, letters, and claims surface, reminders of a nightmare that will never truly end. Years have passed since that dark August morning, but the name Chris Watts still chills the world. His crime wasn't just the destruction of a family. It was the betrayal of everything love, trust, and fatherhood are supposed to mean. Behind prison walls, Chris reportedly spends his days writing letters, reading the Bible, and reflecting on his choices. But to many, those gestures ring hollow, too little, too late. Because no prayer can bring back the voices of Bella and Celeste, or the bright, loving energy that shone and once shared with everyone around her. For Shanann's family, the pain hasn't faded. Her mother, Sandra Rzusek, has spoken publicly about her daughter's final days, the worry she felt, the intuition that something was wrong, and the heartbreak of knowing she couldn't save her. "I still hear her voice," Sandra once said. "She was begging for help, but I couldn't get there in time." The Watts home on Saratoga Trail stands empty now, a silent monument to a life that looked perfect but was built on lies. It's become a grim reminder that evil can hide behind even the most ordinary smiles. But Shanann's legacy lives on, through her friends, her family, and the people who continue to share her story to prevent tragedies like this from ever happening again. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching Dark Matters True Crime. Please like, share, and subscribe, not just for the story, but to honor Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. Their light deserves to be remembered more than his darkness ever will. Because in the end, truth always finds a way to rise, even from the deepest shadows.